Can you believe that we're on episode number 75 of Stream of Thought?
Wow.
Well, here we are, and on a beautiful morning, daylight savings time is upon us, and so we start talking about a bunch of different stuff, from the fact that there's freaking campaign signs all over the roads right now, tripping over them, to the fact that what do you
daylight savings time is actually called daylight saving time,
which is just
so
freaking annoying,
so stupid. And then we talk a little bit about, what is it? I don't recall.
We talk about
signs, littering around college campuses, kind of, a little bit, campaigning. We talk about, what else?
The rise to power. I mean, it was a very fluid stream of thought, so to speak, where we go in and out of all subjects, but it sort of ends with a very nice little examination of what does it take to be a politician? What does it take to get power?
Yes. So with that being said, episode number 75. Stream of Thought. We hope you enjoy. What do you?
So, teamwork.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the last episode. The last episode that we have to worry about sound issues. Yeah. Now that we can I hear I'm right, Rix?
So we figured out. So just to bring people up to speed,
I love adventures.
For 2 years, for 2.5 years since the conception of Straight Up in VNR Media, the song that never ends has been the technical issues related to sound. Just one thing after another.
And half the time, let me tell you, half the time is me trying to tell them that there is an issue going on. No, I don't hear anything. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it. But go on.
And what happened on one episode was, well, when Neil was here, I can't remember. Okay, so what happened was, I came here one time to do something with the microphones, and I turned Rix's microphone all the way down instead of just unplugging it, the gain. And then Neil was here, and you know what? Fuck it. Long story short, the problem was with the plug-in, the third plug-in. It had nothing to do with the microphone, it had nothing to do with the knobs, it had nothing to do with anything other than just there's something weird going on with the actual plug-in on the mixer.
Which was actually the last thing that we tried. We didn't actually consider that one of the panels on our sound control board.
Switching out the microphone, switching out the XLR cable, and then the input.
Now that you hear the difference, you can be attuned to that in the future, that like a little... Now that's all you're going to think about when you listen to past episodes.
It's only a few, as there's a slight pause when I drink my water.
So
I was asking who is responsible for cleaning up the signs for, what the hell is it for? Primaries.
Primary elections.
Because there's obviously, if it's in front of a property, like that would be. I was just thinking like in a public place, or it's like some weird ass place like the other side of the highway that I've seen it. Because I thought back when I was at Purdue, we would put stuff. Different clubs would post things on the sidewalk. They would have computer paper, like a normal sized sheet of computer paper. It could be a different color, blue or pink or green or whatever, with like a call out to go to some club meeting or whatever, some event. And then they'd use masking tape to tape it onto the sidewalk or onto the concrete.
Okay.
And everybody did that. So there are thousands of these all over campus. And I was asking, who's responsible for cleaning out those signs? Because no one was responsible for cleaning that up.
Nope.
But what happened is people would just step on it. It would rain. Yep. And after stepping on the tape and everything, it would just get kicked up and just be left there.
Yeah.
And by the time I was a senior, they had said, okay, this is not allowed anymore. Now what we have, they would have these giant wooden pillars that you could staple things onto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Only problem is now you're stapling shit onto this thing, so now you have a crap ton of staples. This would have been almost 10 years ago that this happened. So I can imagine, like, do people go around and take the staples out? Do they have to replace these pillars with brand new? Like, it's just buildup of staples. But to go from taping down paper, getting your sidewalks all crapped up and with masking tape and rain and snow and all that. Well, not snow, but because they didn't do the winter as much. But then they moved like, okay, this is now the solution to this problem.
Now, was this always? Do you know if this was always the case where they would tape their posters or whatever to the sidewalks? Was that always how people did it, or was it one year suddenly everyone just started doing it?
Since I was a freshman, that's how it was done.
And everyone just decided. You would think that they would come up with a solution to it.
And it mostly
sooner
it
than,
wasn't usually like the sidewalks next to the street. It was just like any concrete real estate in between buildings.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, so it really it just covered everywhere then.
Yeah,
like every inch.
Almost
every inch.
Yeah,
that's absurd. Yeah. Was this for what was this for specifically?
This is just for anything that you wanted people to like.
Oh, this wasn't just for elections. This was for
this is for anything and everything all school year, the entire school year.
This is Purdue,
like club call-outs, rush ATO. Like,
you might want to take a look at that certificate again.
Anything,
see if it's spelled right.
Anything.
How could they allow something like that on such a large campus to not implement some sort of restrictions on taping stuff to the sidewalk? Holy cow! For anything, that's your corkboard. Is the area you walk. Yeah. That is absurd.
That's what we did.
Yeah, man. When it comes to elections and when you have all the signs all over, basically it's the same thing, that no one's really responsible for cleaning them up. So eventually someone will be a good person and take them down. Normally it's the person who lives closest to where the signs are.
Yeah.
But, and on the highways, you'll have the highway crews who pick up garbage anyway, just clean up the signs. But yeah, there are actually pretty stringent restrictions as to legally where you're allowed to place signs.
When I painted houses in college, we would put signs up in random places, and shortly thereafter, in public places, like by the underpass, like the next day they're gone. Police would take them. Like, can't put
absolutely.
These here.
Yep, the well patrolled areas.
We once, when I was selling, when we were 20, right before junior year started, Brian Dorgan and I were selling lemonade at an intersection by where Newton Park is, in between Newton Park and Sunset Pool. We're selling lemonade, and I put up I tore a piece of poster, used a part of a piece of poster, and wrote like lemonade with an arrow and put it on a tree, just a half block down, in like every direction. And the police came and were like, you guys got to take these signs down. You can't tape signs on these trees on the Parkway.
That's so funny. I mean, it's creative.
But good luck selling lemonade.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I mean, you don't know until you try, right? Yeah. And you gotta experiment.
We made almost $100 in 2 days,
dude. Man,
and we only spent 3 hours each day selling lemonade, and we made a total of like almost $100. I think we did, and then we deducted our costs for. So we made around $100 in a matter of like 6 hours.
That's a Glen Ellen lemonade stand for you, right there.
Holy
cow!
Both of my next door neighbors at the time, had taken like $1 or $2, and as they were driving by at the stop sign, I was like about to try and walk up and give them lemonade, and they just threw money and they just drove off. So we easily got at least probably about maybe $5 to $10 were people just throwing sympathy dollars at us.
That is hilarious. How old were you?
20.
What?
Yeah, I was 20.
What? Lil Wayne, what?
Yeah. 20.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. Because we were hanging out one time.
Wow, yeah, those are sympathy dollars, but not the sympathy that you want to have.
Doing? We were trying to get.
Oh, look at that poor kid. He must have something wrong with him.
I believe we were trying to make money.
Are you kidding? 20 years old?
No, listen, though. This is the best part, too.
Oh, my God.
I'm pretty sure we were trying to make money to buy some weed.
So you open up a lemonade stand.
I think we were trying to buy. I think we were trying to buy like a half ounce of weed or something like that.
Oh my God!
And he was like, Well, like I sold lemonade one time with like
Was this Cooper?
Heinz and Weatherall. No, Brian Dorgan. Listen, if you
sorry,
listen, you will have known
Brian
it
Dorgan.
was with Brian Dorgan. You will have known I was 20.
Okay,
I said this before.
I totally overlooked the 20.
So
20
he
years
said
old
like
aspect.
I was selling lemonade with like Weatherall and Heinz one time, and we made some money. Maybe if we sell lemonade, we can. I'm pretty sure we sold lemonade so we could buy weed to bring back to college, to bring back to school.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. For some reason, my ears didn't hear you say 20 years old.
And
Because you said lemonade stand, so I'm like, oh, okay, like that's where my mind is
don't
going.
know
who does a lemonade stand. I don't know anyone
Yeah.
over 7 years old who does a lemonade stand.
And I can't recall exactly. We may not have had a bottle of vodka, and if adults wanted to pay an extra $1 or $2, we'd put alcohol. I can't recall exactly. I don't think that is true, but I believe it might have been true. I can't remember.
This story rings a bell. I feel like you might have told it back in high school, like after it happened, or I'm sorry, back in college after it.
Maybe
happened
it
when you
happened
came back during-
August 2008.
Okay, so 10 years ago.
Because it was when Pineapple Express. Then, like the next week, I remember like Pineapple Express came out or something. We saw Pineapple
Because
Express.
I vaguely recall something about vodka and lemonade.
Yeah.
So you might have told me that story at some point. But
I sold lemonade
my
to.
goodness, I did.
I met my. So I go up to this one woman is like, I'll buy some lemonade. And she's at the stop sign. Every adult that we sell lemonade to, if they're not walking by, like, they're at the stop sign. So, like, we get our lemonade, we run up, they give us the money, and they go, you know? And I go up to this one car, and I'm looking at this woman, and she's like, come on, I gotta go. I'm at the stop sign, and I'm frozen. It was my teacher from kindergarten.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. Mrs.
Did she
Payne.
recognize you?
Yeah, because I've seen her, like maybe 3 or 4 times since being in kindergarten. So like, because my mom knows her, because my mom, she used to, after Ben Franklin, she went to Churchill, and my mom worked there for a few years. And I remember like one time I went to Churchill one time to go do something, and like I saw her. So I haven't seen her in several years, but I saw her between then and kindergarten. In a 15-year time span, like a handful of times, like as I was growing up. So
that's a weird experience. Because you always remember your teachers.
She didn't recognize me right away, but I was like, "It's me, Victor Marquez." And she's like, "Oh my goodness!"
Well, yeah,
I gotta
because
go.
you were like a child back then, and you've turned into whatever you are right now.
She's seen me a few times. Back then it's crazy. She was Miss Carollo before she got married.
Yeah.
Dude, it's super weird that now I think of going back things in my childhood, and I'm like, holy shit, I am the same age or older when I knew this person who, in my mind, was an adult.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'd rather not think about it.
Crazy stuff.
Yes. So, but daylight savings time. So you ended up. This is I think the curse of not having a synced watch to anything is that you're going off your watch. I don't know what was your story.
So I had
we were originally supposed to tape at what, like 8:00.
I had my sleep cycle set. So this is what happened.
Yeah.
I woke up at 4:30 this morning, ready to start the day, but it's cold and it's cold and it's dark. So
Pitch black.
I said, fuck it, I'm going back to bed.
Yeah.
Even if it was dark and warm, I would have probably stayed up. But it was a little bit cold. I said, fuck this. Like, I have zero ambition to be proactive, so I went back to bed. Woke up again at 6:30 when my sleep cycle alarm was going off. Mm-hmm. And I can't remember why I didn't get out of bed, but I didn't. And then I saw that it was like...
Do you sleep with your watch on?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
And then I saw that it was 7:30 on my watch, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start the day right now.
Yeah.
And then, like, a few minutes later, I look at my phone. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, wait, did I just fall asleep and not realize it? What the fuck? And I look at my watch again, and it says 7. I'm like, what? Oh, yeah.
Did your heart jump in your
No. I didn't have
chest
anywhere
a
to
little
be.
bit?
Well,
when suddenly you're like, wait just a second. Something's not right. Or like
I was
adrenaline
just,
spike or something.
I was
that
just
you
happy
notice
that
something's not connecting.
I was fine. I was just happy that I didn't have to be at work early this morning because I would have fucked that up.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. The sleep cycle would have gone off, and I would have gotten out of bed.
Way to yawn.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I had set my alarm for 6 o'clock. And not taking into account that daylight savings time. And apparently, so I had a text sent to you, like, remember daylight savings time, but for some reason it never sent. So I'm like, okay,
really?
Well, so you never got that. But I woke up at 6 thinking, okay, like, Victor will probably be up early, so I'll just be ready to go whenever he's up. And I forgot that it was daylight savings time, so I wake up at 6 o'clock. I'm used to the sun at least starting to rise. And it's just like, oh, like, why do I feel so tired still? Why is it still so dark? I'm like, oh, crap, it's daylight savings time. So now the sun's not coming up till about, a little after 7. Yeah. 7:15, 7:30. And, it really puts a damper on trying to, like, have the energy to get up.
Why am I so tired? Why is it so dark out?
Yeah. It's a weird change. There's a story behind daylight savings time, too, and it's not about farming. People always say that it was about farming. But the reason why we had daylight savings time, but it has no actual implications in regards to production, like farming production.
Right.
Like there's no science. There's no beneficial science behind daylight savings time. It's basically the moral of the story.
I think isn't whatever. Well, why did he? I don't even know why it got started, but I think
there's a story behind it.
I think there's people that wish it didn't happen. There's some places in the country that don't do it. Like I think Arizona.
There's a place in Indiana that doesn't, and the reason that I learned that is because The West Wing had an episode where they were doing a campaign trip through Indiana, and they were in that town that didn't observe daylight savings time, and they said, everyone, like, set your watches to wherever we're leaving at this time, and one of the staff members didn't, and ended up going off and getting left behind. So
kind of like you went to that story when they left, when you walked, like,
the horrible
took the bus,
experience.
Walked 3 miles in the snow. No one's around in the parking lot. Oh, we just decided to leave early.
Yeah.
So we can't really do anything. So bye.
Yep, my experience with the Joe Biden for President campaign back in 2007.
And then you just unleashed on everybody, and they're like, pull you aside. What the hell is going on?
I didn't unleash on everyone, just my boss.
Okay.
Which, as an intern, is not a wise thing to do. But yeah, I tend to that dude. Yeah, that was an eye-opening experience. But yes. So anyway, there are places in the country that don't observe daylight savings time. I didn't know about Arizona though.
I don't know. I just kind of made that up.
Yeah,
I believe so. And there are places, and there are different, so, like, it's weird. I know Mexico, some places don't do, like, daylight savings time isn't the same weekend for every country.
Correct.
Like, some people go, we're doing ours at the end of March. Well, we do ours at the beginning of March.
I didn't think. Okay. So here's, from history.com. Here's 8 interesting facts, and I'll just read through them. I won't read the descriptions. I'll just read the interesting fact. Right. And if anything strikes you, it's daylight saving time, not daylight savings time.
Daylight savings.
Daylight saving.
Daylight savings.
Daylight saving time.
I tried to say saving, but I can't. Daylight
Everyone
savings.
just says daylight savings.
I don't give a shit. Okay.
Me neither. Though in favor of maximizing daylight waking hours, Benjamin Franklin did not originate the idea of moving clocks forward.
Read that one again. What was it?
Though in favor of maximizing daylight waking hours, Ben Franklin, who
did not originate,
did not invent it, or did not invent the idea of moving clocks forward. Englishman William Willett led the first campaign to implement daylight savings time, and he's a guy from London in 1905.
Never heard of him. Okay.
100 years. Germany was the first country to enact daylight saving time.
Okay.
Daylight saving time, I hate saying that.
Yeah, me too.
It's so annoying. In the United States, was not intended to benefit farmers, as many people think.
Okay.
I told you that. It was the sun, not the clock, that dictated farmers' schedules, so it didn't really change.
They have clocks back then?
They weren't interested in clocks.
You know
they worked on the sun, so it wasn't about.
I mean, they did but
that.
They didn't have wristwatches or anything to go by. Okay.
And actually, the agriculture industry was very against daylight saving time.
Why? So wait. So they work by the sun, not the clock. So what difference would it make if they changed
It was
the clocks?
disruptive because it for a growing industrial thing that employed people for certain hours of the day as clocks were becoming a thing, like it was disruptive to people's schedules because they operated as the sun sort of did, and so they did their own thing. There weren't like standards in place. For decades, daylight saving time was a confounding patchwork of local practices. So basically, states and cities did their own things with daylight saving time. Like they changed it at different points of the year. There was not a national one until 1966. So like 50 years ago.
What?
It was not nationalized until.
So people just did it whenever,
the
wherever.
Uniform Time Act. Yeah, people would just if you go
Some
to a
parts
city,
of the
maybe they're doing a daylight saving time, maybe not. So every place that you went.
Oh wow!
There were 23 different pairs of start and end dates in Iowa.
Are you kidding me?
And in St. Paul, Minnesota. So in St. Paul, Minnesota, you could just go a city block and it'd be a different time.
Wow.
You could tell how that could be a problem. So yeah, they ended up instituting in 1966. Not everyone in the United States springs forward. Yes, we know that. Hawaii and Arizona do not observe. So you're right.
Okay, so that's
Hawaii
right.
and Arizona. And then some of the U.S. territories and some Amish communities don't observe it. And doesn't say anything about the Indiana town, but I know that there is one there. I don't know. Yeah, if they're still doing it.
So I see here. My turn now.
No, energy conservation does not result from daylight saving time.
Okay. So I did a little bit of research.
As I was rambling on.
By research, I mean I just entered
Googled it?
daylight savings time and came see what showed up. You know what I do like about Google when you Google something and then it self-populates popular questions and you just hit the arrow and it unfolds and then like more questions come up. So it just says the main purpose of daylight saving time, again, no S, called summertime in many places, is just to make better use of daylight. Nothing in regards to farming, like you said, or anything else, just to make better use of daylight. Ooh, this is interesting. How many countries do not observe daylight savings time? There are 70 countries that do not observe daylight savings time.
There's only, like 140
Japan,
countries?
India, and China are the only major industrialized countries that do not observe some form of daylight saving.
Say those again?
There are only...
Never mind, go on. Keep going.
So... why is there no daylight savings time in Arizona?
Because it's Native American.
With the exception of the Navajo Nation, Arizona does not use with the... All right, that doesn't really give me an answer. That's just talking again.
Wow, you're a wealth of information.
Mine actually aren't as interesting as I thought they were going to be.
Because I know the right search engines to have, and I know where to find the best.
I saw something on CNN, and then I decided not to click on it.
No, don't click on CNN.
Oh, and then what's next? Fox News. No, thank you. What about Newsweek? Is Newsweek a reputable source?
Is, yes, they're a reputable publication. But I feel like we've exhausted the fun facts about daylight saving.
Right.
But going back to, unless you have anything else.
No.
Okay.
Continue. We're moving forward.
Because we talked about this on the ride home, I think from our last taping. And it wasn't about the signs, but it was the question of, so we got primary season coming up.
Oh, yeah.
And the primary date for the Illinois primaries is in a Tuesday from now. And I asked Victor, who is very excited to vote in the next, upcoming midterm or presidential election?
I'm super pumped for the 2020 presidential election.
So somebody who says that he's super stoked for the 2020 election, what were your words when I asked if you're going to vote in the primary?
Oh, I said, what did I say? I said something like, well, if it's not the presidential election, it must not be important enough for me to...
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
But know that I said that, not because that's like my core belief. I said that just to get a reaction out of you.
Yeah, and did you like my reaction?
And I don't recall what you said.
I was pretty flabbergasted as somebody who wants to be a participant of democracy. There's early voting. You can go into town hall and cast your vote.
You were like, you said, well, you can do early voting. Da, 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 da. I was like, I don't give a shit. I went to an audition yesterday. One of my auditions yesterday was at a library in Chicago, like in a meeting room. And there are these people outside the entrance handing out pamphlets to vote. And they're trying to pass us out like something, voting. And I just immediately, I'm downtown, so I put on the blinders. No, thank you. And just walk past them. And I was like, voting? What's going on today? What?
This is what democracy looks like.
Because you can vote at the library. So they're handing out random shit. And I'm waiting, looking over the sides, and these two other girls walk by who are also there for the audition. And because we're in this other waiting area, and I see they didn't get away. They got the pamphlets in their hands. Yep. And then another girl shows up, and she didn't get away. She's got a pamphlet in her hand. Hand too.
Yeah, any way they can get you.
But yeah, in all honesty, it's not that I don't want to vote. It's just that I don't really care, and I'm sorry if that's a problem for you, but that's the truth.
No, it doesn't have to be a problem for other people. It just has to. Right. If you feel frustrated at your government, then you have an opportunity to make a voice. But if you don't really care, then
you know what I do?
Accept the fact that you may lose all of your rights.
You know what I do
as a white straight male.
You know what I do not like is when people so you know how like in any other for major controversial subjects, it could be race or guns or women or whatever the hell, people try and force their opinion on you without really listening to what you have to say. I fucking hate it when people make you feel guilty, try and make you feel guilty for not voting. Like, people fucking died so you can have the right to vote. Yeah, well, maybe I don't feel any of the candidates deserve my vote, or I just don't want to, so fuck off. Like, I'm sorry. Not. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that yes, you can't force someone else's opinion on you or somebody else can't force their opinion on you if it's something like, oh, well, how could you not respect their right to vote? But I think that a little bit of education, you don't need to be told that voting is important. You know why voting is important. Like, if you know that even the small races, the city, county board sort of things that start out small, that's where all the immediate politics happens, and everything sort of goes up from there.
Yeah.
And it's a representation. I mean, you look at the practical implications of a state like Virginia, for example, is that the Republican Party saw it as very important for these smaller elections that most people, like yourself and a majority of Americans, don't really care about. But they found it very important to do what you're seeing all over the place, just like campaign like hell, win those really small races, and they were able to capture a majority of the state legislature in time to, when the census was coming around, to redraw district maps. And so they did what's called gerrymandering. I don't know if you've heard of that term. I've heard of
that term, yeah.
Where you make congressional districts.
I think the last time I heard that term was junior year of high school when we're learning all the stuff about the government and where the flag is supposed to be placed on a stage and
that's
everything
right.
And anything and everything related to that test that we had, 2-hour test that we had to take.
Yeah, that's right.
At the beginning of the school year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So gerrymandering, it's this process of we live in the 6th congressional district.
I didn't even know that.
Wait, do we? Why might I need that? No. I really need to.
Okay, go ahead. If you need to know it, go ahead. I can just talk while you look it up. Yeah, so it's not that I don't think it's important. It's just I'm a total prime example of the byproduct of the culture. Like, we don't like voting voting just isn't a thing like that is really, I mean, it's more recently has been, but like it's not okay. So other places it's a holiday when they do the real big voting. There's more, like, how would you say, it's on, people look forward to it, whereas here, like, the only people that look forward to it is like if you care about it.
Yes. And I mean, honestly, it really should be a national holiday. I think most people would advocate that, yeah, vote. Like, it's a fundamental constitutional right. It's what our country is ultimately built on. Yeah, it's just as important as, like, Memorial Day or any other day that we have off. Election Day. It's when we as a country choose the future, like, of where we're going. Like, kind of a big moment.
Yeah.
As we can tell, that it's not something that should be taken lightly. So, but you have this tension, like I was saying, is that in the smaller elections, lower voter turnout, people don't see it as important. And so you have a state like Virginia where they do all this crazy stuff. And so Democrats in the most recent election ended up, it was 50-50. And they only won, I think, 4 of the 11 House seats or something like that. And just by rewriting the map to make it disproportionate, then Virginia as a state was able to start passing laws and stuff like that that really impacted people's lives, and not for the better either. But you see, I think people don't see the cause and effect of government. I mean, government obviously works best when you can't see it. But, like, saying Glen Ellen, your garbage doesn't get picked up, right? You're going to notice that. Like, simple stuff that the government needs to do to function, I think, is reflected in those people who you elect on a local level. Like, if your garbage suddenly isn't collected for a couple of months and everyone, the roads are just filled with garbage, and you're going to look to who did this? Like, who is causing this problem?
Give us more jobs!
Give us more jobs, exactly. Oh, yeah, or exactly that. If you're unemployed and you feel like your town isn't, or your city isn't giving you adequate resources, you're going to look for who's going to change that. Who's going to be able to, like, make my life better. But if your life's already good, there's complacency about it.
Are there, would you say, certain areas of the country that are more involved in voting than other places? Like, for example, people like you said, people maybe in the community of any smaller communities of Virginia, or maybe are they more apt to vote than people in the smaller communities of the Chicagoland area? Or is it usually like something happens and there's a particular event that affects a certain group of people that maybe for 1 or 2 or 3 years or whatever, some small time period that they would be more involved?
I can't really recall historically how it goes in regards to what states are the most votingist, but you notice that when there are times of particular turmoil in the country, you'll notice that there's significantly higher turnout in the following election cycle. Like the year that Obama was elected, there was a lot of tumult. You had Sarah Palin as vice president and potentially the first black president to be elected. So you had that was reflected both in Obama's election, and in the wake of that, people were very excited, so they were turning out. Supporters or whatever, they wanted to be a part of this movement. And then on the other hand, you have Trump's most recent election, which you had people who were very angry and upset at government and being told that all the rights are being taken away and they're just living in a hellhole. Very upset about that. And so their emotion, anger, and fear was used to get them out to vote. But now you see, in the wake of that, there's a resistance to the way that Trump's presidency has unfolded in being very anti-women, anti-minority, anti-immigration, all these sort of things. So you have all these sort of groups popping up all over the place and activating in their local communities. So the most recent, you've seen primary after primary and special election after special election. Whenever Congress people have to vacate their seats for whatever reason, resignation, or they get appointed to a cabinet position, then you have to find a replacement for them. So the state holds, or the district holds, an election, a special election that normally happens shortly after. We've had about 6 or so special elections. And I believe that Democrats have won 4 out of the 4 last ones by pretty significant margins, including in states that voted for Trump as well. So these are small races. Like, these are just for a district. These aren't in state races. But you see significantly higher turnout because of how much turmoil there is in the government. I feel like it all depends on how aware the public is that the government exists. If the government is not very aware that, or if the public is not aware that the government really exists and just is going about their lives, it's like the government doesn't really exist, they're not going to turn out to vote. People are aware the government exists and are hearing everything is going horribly, everything's going wrong, like this is a disaster, then they're more likely to vote because it's interfering with their personal lives. Government's not working.
What does, if there's a small child here today with just so much hope and innocence, and has not yet been whose optimism has not yet been stained by reality.
I tell him to listen to an episode of Scream and Thought. I should change everything.
What would you? And they say, Rix, one day I want to be the president of the United States. Realistically, what would somebody have to do to be president? Are they wasting their time if they're 18 years old running for alderman or something weird like that? Like, you know what I'm saying? The old adage of start from the bottom and working your way up, and you just spend time, and and you'll get where you need to be. Realistically, what does somebody need to do to gain a position of power?
Well, those are two separate questions. One, like, can anyone believe that they can be president and like actually be president? I feel like that's one of those things that you have to be a very special person to be president of the United States. Even if you're someone like Donald Trump, like, he's a very unique figure. Like, there's a reason that he became president of the United States, and that's because he has the X factor. But the thing that every single president of the United States has had is the firm knowledge that they will be president of the United States. Not one of them have ever doubted that they are capable of being president of the United States. And normally it's in their biographies, they say that from a pretty early age, that they believe they are special. So there's like that, a sort of like a godlike complex that you got to have, that you believe that you can lead a country of 350 million people, that you are the person who can do that.
Got it.
So you got to have a big ego, and you have to have a good way of being able to communicate with people, an effective way of communicating with people.
Okay.
But in regards of getting power, like, there are so many different ways that you can get, quote unquote, power, like, especially in the political field. You can take two different routes. You can take the strategic route, or you can take the war path. It's like you either go down the route of you destroy everyone, like you work to attain power so that you crush
Frank
any that
Frank
would
Underwood
challenge you.
style.
Frank Underwood style. And then you have the sort of the compromiser who is able to effectively manage lots of different personalities and leverage those personalities against one another, so that ultimately the cream rises to the crop, and you end up basically using
Sounds
people
also like
around
another
you.
Frank Underwood style.
Exactly. And you don't have to be one or the other. A lot of times it's a fusion of the both, but you tend to, you can lean more heavily on one or the other.
Hey, Bob, I was talking to Bill over here, and he said that your wife is ugly. Hey, Bill, I was talking to Bob over here, and he wants to fuck your sister. And just, what? And then just work him like that.
Yes, but in a positive way.
Yeah.
Being Victor, you have some really special gifts. Like, you could really do some, I don't know. You could donate your hair.
Sign a piece of legislature, and I'll make sure Bob gets out of the way.
Right.
Yeah, okay. That's
I'll
really
make sure
funny.
he doesn't. Yeah. So it's you gotta lose some of your soul as a politician, because on some
even
level,
if you're Obama.
Yeah, I think that you have to desensitize yourself to most people. Really, like, you can't really put value in the opinions of 99.9999999% of the country. Like, you really can only truly listen and respond to a couple dozen people in your life who you know, trust, and can rely on. And so it's and you're there's only 4 other people on.
The price of corn seed is going up. What are we going to do about that? Well, let me tell you about a story about a little boy named Billy from 50 years ago. And then, I see now why they don't answer the question directly. They tell stories and do other shit. Because,
exactly, yes.
The problems of 99% of the people are not the problems of the country, so to speak. They're little things that don't affect the country as a whole.
Exactly, yeah.
Like the price of corn.
And just think about it. There's all this hope, fear, anxiety, all these emotions directed towards you from everyone. If you're a person in power, if you have power, you're going to be getting lots of things, including people who want to use you, including people who want the best for you, and it's all jumbled together, and you can't really, only successful people are able to navigate which people they can truly trust and bring into their inner
Yeah.
circle, and everyone else is just sort of white noise.
Yeah.
And that's why you see, it's interesting, that's why you see celebrities, when it takes them 3 or 4 days to apologize for something that they do, that's because they don't listen to the initial blast. But if suddenly their friends and inner circle have heard about this and they're like, oh yeah, I don't agree with that, you should probably apologize, that's when they apologize. They've talked to their inner circle, and their inner circle says, yeah,
Right.
you probably did a bad thing. And those are the people they listen to. They're not bending to public pressure.
Right.
They are listening to their inner circle and saying, okay, I trust you, trust you, trust you. If you say I should apologize because I did a bad thing, like, okay, I'll apologize. And I'm not doing it for the people. I'm doing it because I trust and respect what you all think about me. And if I need to
Right.
apologize to regain
Yeah.
that respect among my friends, I will do that. But I'm not going to kowtow to the Russian Twitter bots. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not really worth
Gosh, it would to be like that would be such a nightmare to be living a life of reaction, whether you're the president or a celebrity, instead of listening to yourself and your close group of friends or family. Like, just to, like they said, you can't please everybody, and if you try and please everybody, you're just gonna end up ripping your hair out of your head.
Yeah, you're gonna end up pleasing no one.
Yeah. Man, I love just not. Okay, I just say I love not bending over for people. Like, I love that sounded funny. I love
Bending over at what, Victor?
No, what I meant
Bending
to
over
say
at
is-
what?
What I meant to say is, like, when people, if there's a situation where, like, people are like, oh, you should probably apologize, and I've thought about it, like, no, I'm not going to. Like,
Yeah.
this doesn't deserve an apology, and I don't care. And I don't care if everyone thinks I'm wrong, because I have my opinion, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. But I'm sure that, say, me and your mom and your dad are all like, hey, Victor, like, dude, you gotta, like, make amends somehow.
Maybe. I don't
Like,
know.
yeah, and so, I mean, there is a certain point where there is, even if it's just one or two people,
Yeah.
there's that circle that we trust and will listen to and will respond to, but, you know, outside of that. And that's, I think, what a lot of people are not learning in our day and age, is that they feel so much pressure like, they're not used to being celebrities. Celebrities have this ingrained in their head that they only listen to people who are close to them and ignore everyone else. Like, that's how they became successful, and that's how they stay successful and stay sane.
Yeah.
Most Insta celebrities these days are people that are suddenly receive huge attention for the first time or whatever, have no idea how to respond to this, because it's like, you know, everyone seems to be telling me, like, tens of thousands of people are telling me I'm wrong. Like, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's more people than have ever paid attention to me before, and they're all telling me I'm wrong. Like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. Like, like, I must be a bad person if everyone's telling me that, when the reality is, it's like, don't
listen.
Don't listen. I mean, I wish that our education system did a better job teaching this to kids, but, like, I had the benefit being in a public sphere. Like, that was advice that sort of circulated around me. So I just naturally grew up understanding how public figures interact with the public.
Yeah.
And to see people flounder so much in this social media day and age, just regular people, when they end up getting this hatred, like, social media destroys people's lives on a daily basis.
I bet.
And just devastates people. And a lot of people take it really seriously. I mean, look at the issues of cyberbullying, for example, and kids who commit suicide from that. It's like, we need to be taught who to listen to, who to trust. Like, you can't trust the internets.
Yeah.
As nice as it is, you can't put your trust there. Anyway, my point is, you need to vote in the primary, and my recommendation is come with me to vote.
Can I just do it on the computer?